I can share my experience and what worked for me, but that's just one limited perspective, right? Potentially a professional who's worked with hundreds of people like this is probably going to have a little bit more of a blueprint for how to really navigate your specific situation. And I think because it's less about like, oh, we need to talk it out. It's more of like, no, I need to change behaviors. I need to put boundaries in place for myself. And that's virtually impossible to figure out on your own. You absolutely have to have like outside accountability. So, just like as an example, for a while, if my wife wanted to see my phone, it was okay, here you go. I needed to restore trust. There was no hiding anything, right? She doesn't need to do that anymore. That was a short-term thing because she got to the point where like, I don't want to be your watchdog, right? It's exhausting for her to have to check everything all the time. She got to a point where she started trusting me enough that we don't have to do all these little behaviors. I installed software on all our devices to make sure that I can't be exposed to things that are going to trigger my past or what, I mean, it's just like there's common sense things you do to correct the behaviors, but ultimately, it requires you to start changing you. You can't just put safeguards in place and hope that that solves the issue, right? So if that's all you've done, it's only gonna be a matter of time before you're tempted beyond a situation, that you can't really resist. Whatever your vice may be, I don't ever put myself in a situation where that temptation or even the appearance of that could be possible, right? I will never meet in person one-on-one with a woman out of respect to my wife, just because I don't even want others to even assume that something like that may even be even remotely occurring, right? So
Right.
maybe
Yeah.
that's a little overkill, but for me, I respect her too much now, and I've atoned for what I've done, that I don't even want that to be something on her plate or worried about. You know what I mean? So there's levels to this that I think like requires that, again, personal ownership, and it requires you to think of what's best for my spouse more than me, even if it's inconvenient, right? I would say the cases where maybe not telling is probably very, very, very minimal. Yeah, virtually
Okay.
zero, I would say, almost zero. I think for all real marriages to have real reconciliation, there probably has to be some level of telling the truth with outside accountability and support.